Welcome to Voices from the Valley, a podcast of the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region. I'm Amy Spreeman.
And I'm Carolyn Desrosiers. Today, we're talking about memory loss. If you've ever cared for a loved one who has experienced memory loss through dementia or Alzheimer's, you've probably heard the term, the long goodbye.
With memory loss comes new challenges in caring for your loved one's physical and emotional needs and caring for your own, and that's often a missing piece in the caregiver's journey. According to the Alzheimer's Association, more than half, 60% of caregivers rank their emotional stress as high or very high, and many are suffering from depression.
You know, Amy, today's episode really hits home for me, as I know it does for many people, because my grandmother lived with dementia for many years before she passed away, almost 2 years ago now. And I have to say that one of the most beautiful but also heartbreaking things was witnessing how much love and how much of themselves her caregivers shared with her during that time.
Well, Carolyn, that is so common these days. My husband and I also cared for my mother-in-law a few years ago, as she also had memory loss. And at the end, she did not know who we were. It was very sad, but we knew who she was, and we were able to give her the love and the care that she needed. It was a difficult journey.
Well, the good news is that there are a growing number of resources available in our community. The Federal Administration for Community Living has given the Fox Valley Memory Project a $1 million grant, which requires matching funds from the local community, and we were excited to help with a grant of $15,000 from the Bright Idea Fund towards that match. We'll also link those up in our program notes on our website so you can learn more.
But first, if you've never experienced caring for someone who has memory loss, we're going to take the next few minutes and help you imagine what that's like. Let's listen to what two local caregivers go through every day caring for their spouses. Their names are Deb and George. Here are their stories.
Everything closed up. There was no resources for caregivers at all because of the pandemic, and I was on my own, and it was horrible.
I never thought that dementia would be part of our life.
My name is Deb Depies. I live in Greenville, Wisconsin, and I'm the primary caregiver for my husband, Mike. He's 74, and he was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia about 2 years ago.
Well, my name is George Butz. I live in Appleton. I've been caring for Martha Butz, my wife, for about 8 years now.
Well, I was noticing problems with his memory and just his ability to navigate in the car and find his way around, and just simple things like he couldn't tie his tie anymore. He couldn't figure out a tip in a restaurant, and not earth-shaking things, but things that I knew weren't normal.
8 years ago, I realized that Martha was having problems. So went to doctors, finally got a diagnosis. That's the most difficult thing for most people. It was very difficult to get a doctor to say Martha has dementia or hydrocephalus, which she also has. What's happening to Martha through vascular dementia is that her brain is dying. It shrinks as it dies.
He would wake up in the middle of the night and start wandering around, and he'd be totally confused. About where he was. And it only happened when we were on vacation somewhere. And it kept on escalating so that pretty soon he thought people were trying to kill him. He wanted to call the police. Then we went to our primary care, who referred us to the neurologist. She was wonderful. She picked up on the Lewy body right away because it can be very hard to diagnose. The prognosis is 5 to 7 years after diagnosis is their lifespan.
I just knew that Martha would outlive me, and she'd be someday 95 years old and going, boy, kind of miss him. And, it was a good life together. That's kind of how I thought of it. But it's not worked out that way. Most difficult thing that I go through, and most people that I've come in contact with, is loneliness. Even though Martha's still there physically. Martha's not the person that I knew 5-10 years ago. Martha is different. Martha I knew is gone. And it's tough to lose your spouse. Once is bad enough, but to lose her twice now, which will happen sooner or later through the disease, that's really difficult, because the first time is she's not the person she was anymore. And then the second time is physically she'll be gone. So it's a very lonely journey that you have to go through. You cannot, there's no way to prevent it. There's no way to make it go away. All I did is find people who could help me do the best I could through this journey.
Our husbands, they take care of us and be our protectors. And no, that's my role as well as everything else. So it gets overwhelming, just trying to take care of everything, all the things that a husband used to do, take care of the car, mow the grass, all this kind of stuff. I get to do all that now.
Martha had gotten lost a few times, and so she can't drive at all anymore. Even on walks, she would forget how to get home, things like that. So in 2015, I realized that I had to do something different, and I quit my job so I could take care of Martha. I did not know what kind of help I really needed, even, let alone actually ask for help.
You've been hearing from George and Deb. Like so many caregivers, they reached a breaking point. Thankfully, our communities in the Fox Valley have many resources for caregivers. Deb and George have gotten the help that they need, with programs and support designed to come alongside and help people navigate the physical care and address the emotional stress, guilt, sadness, and hopelessness caregivers often feel.
One of those programs that we mentioned earlier in the program is the Fox Valley Memory Project. And another one we want to tell you about is a program called REACH. REACH has been a real game changer for both George and Deb. More on their journey in a moment. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Laura Marunk with Godfrey & Kahn in Appleton. As a board member and volunteer for the Community Foundation of the Fox Valley region, I'm honored to help our donors invest in the community that has given them so much. Thanks to the Community Foundation, donors of all levels and backgrounds can direct their generosity to nonprofits that impact lives, ensuring that together we flourish. To learn more about giving, please go to cffoxvalley.org.
Before the break, we talked about a resource available to caregivers in the Fox Cities called REACH. It's a program through Mosaic Health in Appleton. REACH is an acronym for Rosalind Carter Institute for Caregiving, Resources for Enhancing Alzheimer's Caregiver Health. The Institute launched its evidence-based model at Mosaic in 2015, providing support groups, helpful resources, and one-on-one personal coaching at no charge for families dealing with a loved one's memory loss.
Mosaic's Heather Flick and Susan Kazik are the two REACH coaches, boots on the ground, if you will, who have been a light of hope for Deb, George, and countless others among their growing clientele. Let's take a few minutes and hear from them.
My name is Heather, and I have been a caregiver coach with the REACH program since 2015. I've been with the program since day one. Prior to being able to have Susan come on board, it was just me. And increasingly over time, my caseload increased step by step. And so we implemented a waiting list. And our waiting list got up to 12 to 13 families. Once we had to implement that waiting list, we went into, okay, well, what can we do about this? And one of the things that we thought of that we could do is explore more funding options. And that's where truly the Community Foundation came in with a superhero cape, and we were able to get a grant, which literally translated in us being able to hire Susan.
Susan came on board in 2020 thanks to a grant from the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Family Fund within the Community Foundation, which gave Mosaic Family Health the support to hire a second REACH coach to eliminate the waiting list.
So my name is Susan. I have been a caregiver coach here at Mosaic Family Health with the REACH program just about a year. The evidence-based model, REACH, is composed of 12 sessions. And so those sessions can take place whatever works best for the caregiver and wherever, and at whatever frequency. So that's really nice. So some people will get through it in 12 weeks, and some it may take 6 months to a year.
One of the things that we do right away is ask folks a number of different questions. This helps us get a good idea of how we can better support families. And there really isn't ever a wrong time to reach out for that extra help and extra support. And one thing that we always encourage folks to is do not wait until you're in that crisis mode. On one day, a crisis might be at one level, but on a different day, something else might feel like, oh gosh, yesterday was a piece of cake, but today, now we're in a crisis. It can and does look a lot different for different families.
The great thing about the program is there doesn't need to be a formal diagnosis. So if someone recognizes that something just feels a little different, they can start that conversation. They can give us a call. We can talk them through it. We can talk them through connecting with their physician and kind of what those steps maybe would look like, including conversation with the person that they're concerned about. The REACH program really focuses on 5 key areas. So we're going to talk about safety. We're going to talk about emotional health. We're going to talk about self-care, social support, and problem solving. Problem solving is a really big piece of the puzzle because often it's those symptoms of memory loss that are causing the increased stress, right? We don't know what to do about whatever's happening. And so talking with the caregiver one-on-one, why is it a problem? What can we do about it? What have you tried? And really helping them pull that apart is a really big piece of the program.
One of the really nice things about the Fox Cities that's unique to us is that we're a very welcoming, supportive community. There are a lot of folks who can help in different ways. One of the things that we talk about throughout the REACH program with families is forming this care team and this support network of formal and informal supports who can each help us in different ways. And that's the nice thing about having the REACH program in our area, having the REACH program located within Mosaic Family Health, is that we have this huge care team behind us. I mean, we are just one little program in our little corner of Wisconsin with our little team, but we have this bigger team that helps support us with all of these different ways. The Fox Cities is such a collaborative community that I just every day feel blessed that we have all this support behind us, because Susan and I certainly couldn't do what we do without all of that support.
Our program, the REACH program specifically, is for anyone experiencing memory loss. So if family friend is providing care for someone with any degree of memory loss, they qualify for our program. We do have some geographic boundaries, so we work in Outagamie, Winnebago, Calumet, and Wapaka counties.
Heather and Susan provide counseling and much, much more, often going along to meetings and appointments.
What happens then is when we get connected with a caregiver, we can then walk and kind of journey with them and ensure that they get connected with these other resources. So whether it's respite, which is a huge need, right? We're not just saying, here's a phone number, call. We're sitting down, we're making the phone calls with them. We're making sure that they're asking the right questions for their situation.
Having the flexibility so that we can help make those phone calls go with them to memory cafes through the Fox Valley Memory Project for the first time, make those warm connections. Like those are really the extra things that we can do to help support families. Caregivers have enough on their plate. Like if we can take some of that off of them and help walk this journey with them, take some of that load off of them, like that's fantastic. And that's more energy that they can put towards caring for themselves and helping to care for their loved ones too.
For George and Deb, Reach has been a lifeline to combat the loneliness and fatigue, and the coaches have definitely put the overwhelming job of caregiving in perspective.
What the Reach program did is give me the skills I needed to do a better job taking care of Martha, but also helped with information on what works well to make our lives the best it can be.
We had a nurse come in and evaluate him because we were trying to get our long-term care insurance started. And she looked right at me and she said, "You can't leave him. He needs 24/7 care." So that's when I knew that, this was it. I was the caregiver. The doctor pointed out this Reach program. And so in November, Susan and Heather both came the first time. And I think the first 4 or 5 times that they came, I just cried the whole time. Poor Susan.
It's often people that make the biggest difference. Heather helped me tremendously. With Heather, it's more than a job. She is committed to helping people on this journey that none of us really want to be on, of course. Heather cares in a way that's just way beyond having a job and running a program called Reach.
Just like an athletic coach, she helps you stay strong. She helps you stay focused. She sets goals for you. And that's really what she is. She's like a life coach for this caregiving. So it's pretty amazing.
If Martha were healthy, Martha would be running this place and me. She liked to be in charge. The hardest thing for her is when I have to take control and tell her no, she can't do some things, to not be able to drive. And her independence is almost completely taken away now. I can't imagine that if it happened to me. Emotionally, that's the most difficult part of taking care of Martha.
In his mind, he thinks he should be able to do all these jobs that he used to do, take out the garbage and mow the lawn and all that. So I think when I take over those jobs, it makes him kind of angry. And my biggest challenge is to just stay calm.
I was able to let go of whether it's my feeling I'm not doing good enough, guilt, or anger and frustration. This is a terrible disease. I had no idea.
I have 2 other friends whose husbands have Alzheimer's, and they also went through the Reach program. And they said the same thing, that they didn't think they would have made it without her. And I feel like we are amazingly such a better place than we were 9 months ago when we started with her. And without this, I don't know where we'd be.
We've had a good life together. It's been exciting, difficult, but it's never been boring. So I can look back and really feel good about our life together.
The Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region is a great resource for making a local impact while simplifying your charitable giving through a tax-deductible charitable fund. Perhaps you're passionate about certain organizations or want to support causes such as education or pets at the animal shelter, or you're interested in addressing the greatest needs of the community. When you partner with us, we'll share our local knowledge so that you can make a difference today and always. Learn more at cffoxvalley.org.
We are back, and I am here with Jackie Gonzalez. She is the Community Care Coordinator at Mosaic Family Health. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
I'm so glad you could join us. We have so many questions. Tell us a little bit about where this idea for Mosaic's coaching program came from. What inspired it?
So about 5 years ago, the Fox Valley was looking at ways that they could enhance the supports for people that were living with memory loss in the community. And actually, we got some recognition by the Roslyn and Jimmy Carter Institute, RCI. They actually contacted Mosaic Family Health in partnership with Fox Valley Memory Project and asked if we would be willing to be a pilot program for their evidence-based model, which is called REACH. And REACH stands for Resources for Enhancing Alzheimer's Care Health. It's really about supporting the caregiver who's caring for someone with memory loss. RCI brought the training and the evidence-based model for us to use. And from there, we've moved forward to support caregivers that are living in the community, caring for a loved one with a caregiver coach model.
And there's a real need for this in the Fox Valley, isn't there, for coaching people who are taking care of Alzheimer's and dementia patients?
Actually, not only in the Fox Valley, but one of the recent statistics I was looking at is that according to the Alzheimer's Association, there are over 120,000 people in Wisconsin alone that are living with Alzheimer's or dementia, and more than 196,000 people who are caring for loved ones with that disease. So it's really very prevalent, not only in the Fox cities, but in our state, but very much so in our community. We see it every day. Working at a primary care clinic, we have so many people that are caregivers that are caring for a loved one. And so to be able to offer coaching for them on their caregiving journey is really, it's a wonderful place to be.
You know, it sounds like a lot of people heard about your program when it launched. Talk to us about the wait list before COVID even.
So prior to COVID, we had one caregiver coach, and she was scrambling around doing her very best to meet all the needs. We had a wait list of about 12 caregivers that were waiting. And caring for ourselves is stressful enough, but when you're caring for a loved one, particularly someone with memory loss, it's extra taxing on a person. And you know, people with memory loss, some of their behaviors can be unpredictable, they can be complex. And so having to wait for someone to be able to help support you in your caregiving journey was really tough. Every month we'd get, 4 different families that were referred to us. So what we did is we looked at ways that we could add caregiver coaching. We feel just very blessed that with the foundation, the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund saw our need and our passion in our community, as well as our other community partners, and made this happen.
Yeah, you've gotten so much generous support from your community partners. How important is that to you, that support as you go forward? Because I imagine the need will continue to grow.
It will continue to grow. The beauty about what our caregiver coaches get to do is that they offer one-to-one support for caregivers at no cost to the caregiver. And that is huge because caregivers already have so many different stressors in their life. And the fact that we can provide one-to-one support in their home where it's convenient for them at no cost is just, sometimes people that we support don't believe that initially. And so the fact that we can do that through our community partnerships is really, it's amazing to us.
Now, somebody listening to this podcast might say, oh, I really need this right now. I've got somebody at home that I'm caring for. How can they get involved?
The way that you can reach out to us if you feel your need and support, you can contact Mosaic Family Health Clinic at 920-832-2783 and simply ask for Jackie. You can also visit our website at mosaicfamilyhealth.org and click on the Caregiver Support tab. And that will take you to a description of the REACH program and the different types of support that we provide. We also have a monthly family caregiver support group as well.
We are going to have those links in our podcast notes as well. If you go to our website, cffoxvalley.org, and click on the podcast link for today's episode, we'll have all those links to get involved with Jackie there. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you sharing your story today.
thank you so much for being interested in it. We're so appreciative of all the community partner support. So thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. We're going to wrap things up for today.
In our podcast program notes for this episode, you can find all the background information on the people behind the voices you heard today, as well as the links to the caregiver resources we mentioned. You can find it on our website, cffoxvalley.org. Look for the podcast link on our homepage. There, you'll find all the resources for our topics, as well as how you can subscribe and get all of the podcasts delivered to your computer or smart device.
And while you're on our website, we want to hear your voice. Leave us a comment and let us know if there are topics you'd like to hear in future episodes. Thanks for tuning in as we wrap up this episode. We'll see you next time on Voices from the Valley, a podcast of the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region.